crikey, that video's a little bit, that camera's a little bit close, eh? Sort of feel like it's invading my personal bubble a tad. Yeah, I think I needed a shave before I did this. Anyway, this video is going to be about molten power swords, or any sort of molten metal effect. I was asked after the Judicar I did recently to do a tutorial on it, so I thought I'd oblige. It was a lot of fun, and actually the only way I could consider painting the sword that I'm going to use in this tutorial, which was part of a librarian miniature I was painting, the swirls up it, I couldn't figure any way to do it and make it look half decent. So yeah, hope you enjoy. So we start with a base coat of Buckskin Pale, followed by the first glaze of Sun Yellow. The next glaze will be Lantern Yellow, then Fire Orange, then Lava Orange, then Phoenix Red, then Clotted Red, and then the final glaze will be Black. I'll be making a mid-tone highlight of Buckskin Pale mixed with Lantern White, followed by a highlight of Lantern White, and then a final highlight of White. So we've base coated the blade Buckskin Pale, and now going to apply the first layer of Sun Yellow. Now I'll be painting the majority of the blade, apart from the raised runes at this stage. I will be going in between the runes. I lose focus here a little bit on the camera, but you're not missing anything. You can be quite messy at this stage, as it's only a very fine glaze that's only slightly changing the hue of the blade. So now we're going to do the coat of Lantern Yellow. We'll be going over the majority of the blade again, but ever so slightly less than the previous stage. Make sure to go in between the runes to help define them. I also begin to apply a little bit of the Lantern Yellow to some of the upper runes towards the tip of the blade. So now I'm going to reapply some of the Sun Yellow to the runes towards the tip of the blade. And then go back through and increase the opacity of the Lantern Yellow glaze previously in the same areas. You'll notice I'm catching some of the runes towards the very tip with the Lantern Yellow as well. So now I'm going to increase the opacity further of the Lantern Yellow glaze, and also go in between all of the runes to increase their visibility by defining them further. You'll notice I'm also concentrating on the edges of the blade. So now we're going to apply the first glaze of Fire Orange to the tip and about 3/4 of the way down the blade and in and amongst the runes. Although I do not apply the Fire Orange to the runes towards the base of the blade. I apologise for the loss of focus here, you haven't missed a great deal. You notice I'm basically feathering in the glaze to the edges of the blade towards the base, but being a lot more liberal towards the tip of the sword. So now I'm going to apply some Buckskin Pale to the runes in order to tidy them up, concentrating towards the lower part of the blade and going no further than the centre. And then take the mixture of linen white and buckskin pale and apply it towards the base runes. Then pure linen white towards the very bottom. And then pure white to the very bottom next to the hilt. And you can already see those are starting to really pop. Then I continue to go backwards and forwards through the various different stages. And now I'm taking some of the Lantern Yellow and redefining the runes, mainly towards the base of the blade. Back in with the Fire Orange. You notice I'm putting it along the side of the blade as well as in between the runes, and really concentrating on the tip of the sword, but not applying any to the actual runes at the top. And you can begin to see the runes are now becoming a lot more defined. So now we're going to add in the first glaze of Lava Orange, which is a considerably darker orange to anything used previously. And you can already see that it's starting to define those upper runes amazingly well. Now the Lava Orange will be focused predominantly towards the tip of the blade. You notice I've basically covered the entire of the tip except for the runes. I do put some edging on the base of the sword in order to define the shape of it, but I tend to avoid going too heavy at this stage with the darker colours towards the base, because I'm working in such thin glazes. It is a case of many layers building up that colour, and you notice I'm going in between the runes as well in order to help define the shapes. Now you'll notice here I flip the model upside down in order to apply the shade at a different angle to certain other parts. That's just a handy little tip should you be struggling to get a decent brush stroke on a certain part of a model. Don't be afraid to just flip it upside down. So now I'm starting to put the edges in towards the base of the sword with the Fire Orange, and also just picking out a few of the areas of the runes where I may have been a little bit untidy with some of the lighter colours. So here I'm putting in the first glaze of Phoenix Red, and again, as previously mentioned, I'm reducing the amount of area that I paint, focusing towards the tip of the sword with this glaze, and again going around defining some of the upper runes where they're slightly darker. Just picking out those prominent bits on the sword blade and also the edges of the sword. I do lose focus here, but I'm just edge highlighting so you're missing nothing. So now we're going in with the clotted red, but we're stippling this in rather than glazing it in. You'll notice the brush strokes are a stipple rather than an actual brush stroke. Every now and again you'll see my finger wipe some of the paint that I accidentally get on the rune. Now this stippling is focused predominantly around the edges of the blade. You don't want to go too heavy with this. You need to leave ever so slight amount of the Phoenix Red from the previous stage showing. Notice where I'm focusing towards the tip of the blade, but when I start to go further down the blade I focus entirely on the edges. Don't be afraid to go back through re-stippling the clotted red phase. Just so you build up a nice colour, but also you need a little bit of texture. Now I'm going back in with the Phoenix Red, defining a little bit more of the runes and also glazing in around the top of the blade where I've done the stippling, just to add a further amount of transition between the stippling of the dark clotted red and the Phoenix Red. So now we're going to stipple the black into the top of the blade, and this is very, very small amounts. And don't worry, you haven't gone mad. I forgot to film the painting of the black when I did the blade on that side, on the other side. So I had to refilm it when I did the reverse. So you'll notice that that I'm stippling the very, very edges as well as edge highlighting, and it is very, very fine amounts. So now I'm just going to do a ever so slight further stippling of the black towards the top of the blade, just to help further define it. So now Seraphim Sepia filter, make sure you shake it well. I mix mine with alarming medium to get rid of any glossy finish. Now the filter's applied all in one direction, but the reason this is done is to help tie all the blends in together and give a nice consistent finish. Because the lamy medium's in there, it goes nice and matte. There we go, all done. So there we go, all done. One molten hot magma sword of psychic power. Hopefully that's given you an idea of how to do something similar. It's not exactly the same as the Judicar sword I did, because of the swirls required a rethinking of the whole thing. But it gives you an idea of the process that is used in painting the Judicar sword, as well as what I've done today. Yeah, any questions, pop it in the comments below. Any thoughts on things you want me to do in the future, again, comments below. Happy painting and see you soon.